Do you think you would perform better at work with a few rounds in your system? What if you were a doctor or a cop or a teacher? Well, this is a story about 4 high school teachers who thought it was a good idea to conduct this experiment. This is 2020's Another Round. Spoiler alert, while I might be giving you my opinion on the film, that's no substitute for watching it for yourself. Links to the film are in the description. And for those of you that need to hear this, this is just a movie. All stunts are for the sake of story and shouldn't be attempted on your own. Viewer discretion is advised. We start off watching some fun drinking festivities going on at a school campus, and everyone has a beer in their hand. A whole bunch of students seem to continue the festivities into the night, and they tear up the town with crates of beer. Then we jump ahead to the next day as teachers gather at the school to discuss the possibility of having a zero-tolerance policy for alcohol the next semester. No one really thinks they'll be able to uphold that, and the teachers head to the classes to continue teaching their day. We get a glimpse of choir, PE, psychology, and world history. Martin is the professor for world history, and he looks out at all of his students as they seem to be falling asleep from boredom. When Martin gets home, he eats dinner with his wife and kids before lying down in bed. His wife Annika gets dressed to head to work, and Martin asks her if he has become boring in his older age. She tries to explain in a nice way that he isn't the Martin she once knew, but that's all the information he gets out of her. The next day, Martin heads back to the school to teach his class, but the principal stops him in the hallway to tell him he has a meeting this afternoon with the parents. He tries to ask what it's about, but once again, he doesn't really get an answer. I'd be sick and tired of no one giving me any real answers. But you expect me to go through my whole day wondering what this dreaded meeting's supposed to be about? Am I going to get fired? Are they throwing me a party? Like, what's going on? When it comes time for the meeting, Martin finds out that quite a few parents have gathered for the meeting. Apparently, most of the parents aren't happy with how strict and confusing his lectures are, and they worry about their kids' exams and the effect they'll have on their admittance to college. Martin tries to tell the parents that it's not necessarily all his fault that they aren't excelling, but he assures them that he'll try to come up with a solution. That evening, Martin gets ready to go to his friend Nikolai's birthday, and he stops to pick up Tommy. When they get to the party, Nikolai celebrates his 40th birthday, and he gives a speech on how humans should always have about 1 or 2 glasses of wine in their system to make them more open and relaxed. Then he makes the connection to the issue in Martin's class. Nikolai makes the connection that Martin has some other problems that he needs to address before he can teach correctly. I'm sorry, I don't think Martin came out to celebrate this birthday just so you can sit there and criticize his teaching techniques. They're not gathered to nitpick through Martin's boring life. Somehow Martin stays and continues to watch everyone have a good time. More power to him. Finally, Martin breaks down and downs some vodka and 2 glasses of wine. He starts to cry and he opens up to his friends about his letdown of a life. Finally, everyone opens up about their pasts together, and the alcohol starts to take effect. Everyone loosens up, and they end up messing around in the street after. In the morning, Martin heads to the school, and he heads to the bathroom to take a swig of vodka before heading to his class. By the end of the day, he runs into Nikolai, and he tells him that he can't drive since he decided to try his experiment throughout the day. Nikolai decides to get him to Tommy's house to try and get them to join in the experiment. They all decide that it's a brilliant idea, and Nikolai sits down to draw up a document to record their findings in the process. They all agree to no drinking after 8 p.m. or on the weekends, so they can mirror the philosophy of Hemingway. The next day, all 4 of them decide to start their day with enough alcohol to blow 0.05 alcohol blood content. Martin decides to start his students off with a test, and they seem to be really responsive to his new style. As a matter of fact, the experiment seems to be a hit with all 4 of the friends. When Martin goes home, even Annika can notice a difference in him, and they sit to eat dinner alone for the first time in a long time. They talk about the upcoming vacation, and Martin believes that they should go on one like they used to. Annika's really getting suspicious. Back at school the next day, Tommy comes in to find the janitor has discovered his stashes of alcohol. When the principal brings all of the teachers in for a meeting, she asks if anyone has seen any of the students drinking on campus. Of course, no one says anything, but when the 4 friends meet up later, they talk about how they need to be more careful. Martin talks about how he feels better than he's ever been before, and he thinks that they need to up the ante and consume even more. Nikolai draws up a new hypothesis, and Martin agrees to go first in this little experiment. The next day, Martin wakes up to begin his day right with a nice tall glass of vodka. He throws on some old records and enjoys his glass while looking around the room. While he consumes his spirits, he looks up historical evidence of historical figures enjoying a drink or 2. By the time he blows 0.12, he decides to take a taxi to the school. He stumbles around and his friends immediately notice that he's intoxicated. If it wasn't obvious before, it is after he walks right into the wall. After that, Martin heads right to class where he decides to talk about historical figures drinking. He then decides to ask some of his students just how much they drink in a week too. What's even crazier is the fact that his students are just perfectly fine with divulging how much of an alcoholic they actually are. You don't just tell teachers that kind of stuff. That's how you get sent straight to the office without any hesitation. But just as the premise of the movie would suggest, Martin actually teaches better than he ever has, and the students are more motivated than ever before. Go figure. After class, Nikolai finds out what blood alcohol content level Martin's at, and he records the findings on his laptop. Next up is Nikolai, who immediately downs a whole bunch of alcohol, and he even snorts some of it too. For the love of God, don't snort alcohol. Next is Tommy, who just finishes his whole bottle of alcohol during a soccer game, and he ends up coaching the team to a win and letting the kid that gets bullied score the winning goal. After the game, the four friends all play their own little scrimmage. The next day, Peter comes to school, and he notices a kid is having a tough time. He immediately spots that Sebastian is having trouble with life. Sebastian's worried about repeating another year, and Peter suggests that he should take a shot before the exam. If no teachers get fired by the end of the movie, I will call this the most unbelievable drama that I've ever seen. And you know what kind of movies I watch. That weekend, Martin goes on a camping trip with his family, and they end up having the most fun and quality time that they've had in a long time. He and Danica even get it on in the tent. Martin couldn't be happier with the way his life is going ever since they started the experiment. By the time they finish, Annika starts to cry because she missed Martin so much. When Martin gets back, the four friends sit down to discuss the next step in their experiment. Nikolai tells all of them that he thinks they should test what happens when they drink past the reasonable amount to a level of ignition. After hearing this, Martin decides that it's time for him to hop off the experiment train, but Tommy's still game. After Nikolai's family leaves, Tommy, Peter, and Nikolai decide to start their drinking into oblivion. Nikolai calls this part of the study maximum BAC. Martin says his goodbyes, but watching them drink the fancy drink is too enticing to miss. Now all four of them are joining in the festivities, and they continue to drink the day away while listening to music and dancing around. Eventually, they blow .18, and they decide that this is a good time to go shopping for the fresh cod that Nikolai's wife wanted. When they find out that the grocery store doesn't have any fresh, they head to the dock to catch fresh cod on their own. Well, that doesn't work, and they decide to go to the pub to continue drinking. Once they're done there, they run through the streets carrying even more alcohol, and Peter's lost his pants. They stumble home and Nikolai crawls up the stairs in his house. He somehow manages to crawl into bed, but his wife wakes up the whole house to leave when he pees the bed with her in it. I'd probably leave too, that's a little excessive. I could see vomit, but pee is a whole different story. Across town, some neighbors find Martin sleeping on their driveway, and his son shows up to walk him home. After resting, he eventually comes out to eat dinner with his family, but Annika tells him that he has to explain what happened to the kids. He simply tells him that he was drunk, but his eldest son calls him out for being drunk for quite some time now. Annika sends the kids to their room, and she asks Martin what's really going on. The two of them finally open up about how they really feel about each other, and he calls her out for sleeping around. Once he realizes that she really has been, he storms out in a rage and goes to drink with the guys. They drink themselves into oblivion, and they eventually have to face the music. They decide that this is a good time to end the experiment, but as you can see, it's not over yet. At this point, you might as well go to its conclusion. It would be like me stopping this video here because I don't want to see any sad endings. I'm not saying it's sad, but I don't really see how this can go any other way. The next day, Martin sits alone eating breakfast at his house before heading to school. Once there, the principal welcomes all of the staff back from their winter break, but she's had reports of staff drinking on the premises. During her meeting, Tommy storms in late and loud, and it's very clear that he's intoxicated. He takes a seat for a moment, but he immediately gets up and stumbles around. Martin takes him home and lies him down in his bed. Then Martin decides to clean up his house. That night, Tommy comes out to find Martin waiting for him, and Martin consistently has to remind him to take it easy with the alcohol. Finally, Tommy tells Martin that he has a handle on things, and Martin says goodbye. Before Martin gets too far, Tommy pops outside and tells him that he's rooting for him and who he can be. Something's telling me that Martin shouldn't leave the house, but it is what it is. This movie got really serious really quickly. The next day, Martin meets up with Annika to discuss the separation, but she breaks down when he tells her that he misses her and is sorry. He takes this chance to apologize for pushing her away, and he tries to tell her that he wishes they were together. She keeps trying to tell him that it's too late for all of that, but he keeps pushing the fact that he loves her. After that, she finishes her wine and leaves him there alone. Back at the school, Sebastian goes to take his exam, and Peter notices that he's not going to be able to do it. In a hurry, Peter goes to get his fake water bottle with vodka, and he has Sebastian drink while he takes the exam to try and loosen up. It ends up working perfectly, and we get our one happy ending. That evening, Tommy heads to the dock with his elderly dog, and he's definitely drunk again. He goes out on the boat with his dog. Back at school, all of Martin's students finish up their exams, and they all end up passing thanks to Martin's motivation, as does Sebastian. When we see the boat again, we see that the dog is floating aimlessly without Tommy anywhere to be seen. I don't know what I really expected, but this movie got really serious for a film that has comedy as its top genre. When Nikolai comes to Martin during the graduation to tell him about Tommy, you can really feel their hearts drop. Later on, a funeral's held for Tommy, and Martin goes to pay his respects. He sits with Peter, and soon Nikolai and his wife show up. Martin acts as one of the pallbearers, and he notices that Tommy's soccer team of children have shown up to pay their respects. Martin drives home in silence, and he later meets up with Nikolai and Peter at a restaurant where they sit in more silence. When they try to question what Tommy would do, they end up going to a restaurant to eat and drink like they did for Nikolai's birthday. When they sit there, Martin gets a text that simply says, "I miss you too." Well, it looks like this is actually a semi-happy ending after all. Peter seeing someone that he banged in the music room, Nikolai's repaired his marriage and stopped peeing the bed, and Martin finds out that his wife still feels the same about him. Trust me, this movie couldn't get any happier after it got to a certain point. However, I'm more worried about Tommy's dog. What happened to the dog? Suddenly, the graduates drive by on their celebration truck, and the teachers head out to join them for a moment. Finally, Martin decides to grace them with some dance moves he learned back in his glory days, and everything is as it should be. I have to say that watching Mads Mikkelsen dance by the harbor is enough to make this movie worth it. You have to remember that this is Hannibal and Le Chiffre from Casino Royale. I never thought I'd see him dance, and he actually isn't that bad. Then, the credits roll. This was recommended by a dear friend of mine, and I have to say that it was perfect. It wasn't the most unpredictable movie in the world, but you don't need that all the time. Sometimes a slice-of-life drama with some life lessons to be learned is exactly what you need or want. Give it a shot. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.